Going back to the Bahamas was a decision that all of us made based upon what the script called for.
For the new style James Bond Casino Royale to go back to the Bahamas, which a lot of people say is the home of the Bond films, was fantastic.
There's something very mysterious and sexy and exclusive about the Bahamas, the Bahamian water, the beaches, the location. It's really very much just the perfect fit for Bond.
We'd been to the Bahamas several times, and it's a good place to make a film. It's a natural place to go.
Bond, he's who every man wants to be and who every woman wants to go to bed with.
Very glamorous locations.
The Aston Martin.
The girls and the gadgets.
James Bond is legendary for class and taste and elegance.
The islands of the Bahamas are part of James Bond's DNA.
We wanted to go to the Bahamas because there's something still exotic about the Bahamas.
And it just seems the right spot for the guy.
He's in the Bahamas.
You woke me to share his holiday plans.
When we started Casino Royale, we were going to start shooting in January of 2006, and we needed to find locations actually that obviously were going to have good weather at that time. We scouted Spain, also we looked at Biarritz. We did go down to Croatia. We looked at shooting in Madagascar for real. It was unbelievably complicated. Even to go and scout it was complicated.
Peter Lamont suggested the Bahamas.
His experience and knowledge of the world and what's been done before comes in to be very important. It's a very, very key factor.
My first thoughts were that if we were going anywhere, that we should go to New Providence, Nassau.
I was in London and had lunch with Barbara Broccoli and Michael Wilson. They were thinking of shooting in South Africa and in Madagascar. They said, "Jerry, what do you think?" And I said, "Ooh, I have an idea. If you skip Madagascar and come to the Bahamas, I can show you a way where you could shoot both and no one will even know it's not Madagascar because there's a part of the island that would be perfect for it."
Jerry's wonderful. He's a hoot. He said to us the thing that we always dream someone will say to us when we're on a location, which is, nothing's impossible.
One of the great advantages of the Bahamas was that we had the free running sequence to do, and we had conceived of it in the script as being at a place where a building was under construction.
We needed the building for a long time. Any building like that appears under construction clearly is under construction. So what you're doing is stopping the construction for God knows how many weeks.
We had to find a place where we could create the appearance of a construction site.
We didn't think we would ever find anything like that, and we found it right there in the Bahamas, right next to where they had shot Thunderball, and we had the extraordinary backdrop of the water. And it just, at that moment, Michael, Peter, and I went, oh my God, it's meant to be. It just felt, okay, well, I guess we're supposed to be in the Bahamas.
This location is the Royal Bahamas Defense Force Base. The old Coral Harbor Hotel is now the training center for the Royal Bahamas Defense Force Base. That hotel was used in the film Thunderball.
The place where Thunderball was made, the hotel down there, they decided to expand the hotel and put in a large hotel complex there. It fell into disputes and problems with construction and financing, and it lay abandoned. It was now owned by the Ministry of Defense. The barracks now are what's the former two-story garden-style hotel that was there. It was something that's been sitting there abandoned for 40 years.
That was a very, very complicated location to get into.
Of course, the big problem was now to get into the place.
You can phone up and say you're the James Bond film, and it's very, very rare that you ever meet anyone who doesn't know.
We had to jump through all sorts of hoops to get the Commodore to understand that filming on an active base is not going to disrupt the activity of the base.
Even the most daunting of locations will see if they can make it work for you.
Jerry Insurilio, who is one of the chief executives of the One and Only group, we had dinner with him one night and we explained to him that we'd found this fantastic site on the MOD ground, but we thought it might be complicated to get in there. And Jerry, in his normal, enthusiastic way, said, "Guys, don't worry, I'll sort it for you."
Because Bond had such a legacy in the Bahamas, it worked naturally, and the rest is now history.
It was nice to know that where we were shooting the free-running sequence, indeed that was the hotel behind that Bond had used. They'd used quite a lot of in Thunderball.
In Spy Who Loved Me, we used it as a base, that hotel, for a lot of our model construction and model shooting.
When one of the submarines is being eaten by Liparis, we wanted a kind of a high shot looking down, obliquely down at the Liparis with the doors opening and the submarine in the foreground. And we did it by using the hotel with various floors to get the elevation that we wanted, rather than having to build towers and things like that. So it helped us enormously.
Bond producers, I think they liked the Bahamas a lot, and I think it was a good choice. I was aware that they did quite a few Bonds in the Bahamas.
We went out there on Thunderball, I went back on You Only Live Twice, then Spy Who Loved Me, and then subsequently For Your Eyes Only. Words Not Enough, and then we returned on Casino Royale.
When you go down the Bahamas as a Bond crew, you're liable to run into a lot of people that worked on Bond films before, and they all have very fond memories of it.
The Spy Who Loved Me was my first Bond film in 1976. I was hired as a diver. The Lotus car, it arrived. We were working off of a large rusty barge that had a crane on it. They actually sent a couple of technicians over to run it. And then afterwards they left, and then we started abusing it and making it really work, because it had 4 Farallon motors in it. I think we got more out of it than maybe they had thought we would. Just imagine taking a car and opening all the doors, opening everything, putting it in the water, and then closing the doors. That's what we had. It was an exciting time because it was the first time for a lot of us. It was a very small crew and no problems, and everything worked. And my big claim to fame in that film was that I got run over and killed by a car underwater, which I don't think too many people can claim. On the World Is Not Enough, I was doubling for Pierce Brosnan in that. Michelle Cove and I, who were the 2 doubles, we got shot out of this submarine, supposedly, and had to do a free ascent to the surface.
We had a tether to 50 feet of water, and we were shot with an airbag straight up to the surface. It was a very dangerous stunt because we were at a depth of 50 feet for the majority of the time, and then when we released the airbag, we were shot at ridiculous speeds to the surface.
I kept on reminding Stuart that I was holding on to his wife all day. And my good friend Stuart Cove, I once got him for a job, but Stuart is the man here when it comes to diving.
I've worked on 3 Bond films, For Your Eyes Only, The World Is Not Enough, and quite recently Casino Royale. We shot a lot of sequences for the James Bond films here, in particular For Your Eyes Only, where we had the underwater temple was just a couple hundred feet by the pen here, by the studio.
With For Your Eyes Only in 1980, I was involved with and coordinating the construction and pre-production that we were involved with before the shooting. And then when we started shooting, I did all the underwater doubling and stunts for Roger Moore. We had the dragging sequence over the coral. Franny Young was the underwater double for Melina. We got tied together, and then we got dragged behind a boat. Then we figured out how deep we were beneath the surface, and then we went looking for coral that was a little bit deeper.
When we made these sequences, we had a whole lot of support staff, up to 30 staff in the water at any one time. There was safety divers for the stunt doubles. We had a whole team that just worked the tiger sharks and wrangled the tiger sharks. This is the area where Bond and Melina were dragged over the coral. They were tied together. It was a very dangerous stunt because they're literally dragged over this razor-sharp Alcorn coral.
And in fact, we did get a few cuts and scrapes. A little bit of blood was involved.
Franny and Gavin both suffered severe cuts on their hands and back that took several weeks to heal.
Nothing that necessitated a trip to hospital, but we did take a bit of a beating.
In the movie, the sequence takes place in the Ionian Sea, but of course it was all shot here in the Bahamas, which we have the clearest waters in the world and all this magnificent elkhorn coral. This is when Bond and the girl swim down from the surface and Bond wraps the rope around the coral head. And then the rope snaps and the paravane knocks the bad guy overboard.
That was a scene where they used Pete Romano as the stunt double.
I heard about that.
And
yeah.
he was, and the sharks were just supposed to go around his legs, and we were launching the sharks at him. The shark actually came up, went crazy, went up and grabbed him right between his legs and took him out of the water, and then let him go. And we thought, you know, he'd been chopped right up.
Yeah.
But he was fine.
A man came into my shop in Miami where I was building all kinds of stuff, selling air compressors and selling dive equipment, and said that I hear you build underwater stuff. And I said, yeah. I said, well, we're going to do a picture, and I want you to come over tonight to the Fontainebleau Hotel and look at a movie. That movie was Goldfinger. And from there on, for all practical purposes, that was the beginning of my life with James Bond. I had 4 weeks to build a sub and 12 sleds. The underwater filming in general in Thunderball was probably the first time a major picture used that quantity of underwater footage.
Thunderball put me in the movie business, as they say. Willie Myers, my friend, called me and said, we're doing a movie and it's going to be fun and we're going to pay you the California rate. Come along and join the party. And that's how it all started.
The detail and the effort involved, particularly with the 40-man plus fight scene, was staggering. The logistics were monumental. Just finding 40 divers that could put on a dive suit and a weight belt and know how much weight they needed was next to impossible.
Thunderball was made all by hurry up, do it, and get it right the first time.
We're headed over to the what we call the James Bond site, which is where you sank that Vulcan bomber.
That was a lot of effort to get that down there. And of course we did all the filming there.
We built this bomb house. The undercarriage was there, the cockpit were there completely. The bomb bay had to be fully working. This was built. I single-handedly then did all the dressing in the bomb bay.
This is the remains of the Vulcan bomber from Thunderball. Stuart, let me come on over here and let me show you where we almost had a serious accident.
Okay.
Up here in the cockpit, we were shooting the scene where the bad guy cuts the hose of the co-pilot being Courtney Brown. He's supposed to take his air from a small tank that he had between his legs. And in the commotion, the bottle slid between his legs all the way down to where he couldn't possibly reach it. And so he's thrashing around.
They can't get his spare air.
He can't, but he's not breathing now. He's holding his breath the whole time. So then he realizes he can't get the tank. So he starts thrashing around and he tries to reach over and get Willie's mask, who played the pilot, his hose rather. And he's grabbing, and Willie's going, and they'll push him away like that's what's supposed to be happening because he's supposed to drown. Well, he just about did. By the time everybody realized that, and started cutting the wires on the top of the cockpit, and getting him out, he was blue. But 2 days in the hospital, and he was back out there. It was so realistic, we only did one take.
The only real recognizable thing that you can tell that this is an airplane is the landing gear. The landing gear on the right side of the plane. And then we can swim underneath the airplane here, and this is where the bombs bay was.
Yeah, I remember putting the bombs up in there. In fact, there's a flash of my Rolex in the scene. Here in the bomb bay is where Frank Cousins, who doubled for Bond, swam in to check to see if there are any, where the bombs are, if there's a big shark swimming around. About 14 feet, they said, and 3 guys were holding on to him, and they're bringing him over to release him in front of the camera. And he decided he didn't want to go there, so he just looked like a dog shaking water, only not that violently. And the 3 guys just went tumbling, and he just kept on swimming.
Shark wrangling with tiger sharks, with live tiger sharks, was pioneered in the early 60s by Jordan Klein and Rico Browning.
He was the director for the Bond stuff, and we did a lot of shark wrangling throughout that entire picture.
2 divers would go down, grab the shark, tuck him into your side and hold on to a lateral and the dorsal fin, 2 guys, and then you would walk him towards Mr. Lamar. He would roll the camera, you would push the shark, and there'd be 2 other guys out of film who would catch it at the other end.
Each shark had its own predilection. Some would swim the same level, straight across in front of the camera. Others would swim down, others would swim up. But once you understood what they were going to do, they did it consistently. So you could say, okay, we need a shark to swim toward the camera. You'd use that shark, because when you turned them loose, they would swim, and as they swam, they got more horsepower because they were getting more oxygen, and they became very frisky at that point.
Everybody was apprehensive. Nobody got bitten.
The notorious golden grotto sharks, the most savage, the most dangerous.
I have never heard of any golden grotto sharks here in the Bahamas. I think that was something these guys made up for the James Bond film, Thunderball.
The sharks. We all saw the sharks in our house on Cable Beach.
That was at the Sullivan's house. And there were 2 pools there, and that's where we had the sharks.
The saltwater pool on the west side was used to house the sharks.
They had the Miami Seaquarium boat would actually catch the sharks at night, and then they'd bring them in.
I have one very vivid memory of the filming of Thunderball, and that is at the shark pool. Now here we are, mid-1960s. Sharks are something you read about, you don't see.
And we saw some of those scenes being filmed, and we thought it was unbelievable.
Sharks going around in circles, looking quite big. They must have been reef sharks. They were going around the perimeter of this circle, clearly restless. And we have a lot of milling about, filming lots of cameras. And I do remember at one stage the water that was feeding the sharks, keeping the fresh salt water in, this massive 8-inch hose came flying out in every single direction and went and nearly threw my mother into the shark pool.
Mr. George Moscow owns Palmyra now, which is called Rock Point in real life. He owns a big construction company on the island, and he's been involved in Bond movies all the way from Thunderball. His marine construction company took the Vulcan bomber out to location and sunk that.
When Thunderball was made in Nassau, it was a big event.
Everybody was very excited by Thunderball.
Yeah, the island was jumping.
And it was a party time. The whole island was having a party.
This is the balcony where Sean Connery watched the Junkanoo scene during Thunderball. Junkanoo is the spirit, the vibrancy of the people.
Junkanoo is our big national thing, and it happens on Boxing Day, the day after Christmas, and then on New Year's Day.
It starts at 2 a.m. in the morning and runs until about 11 a.m.
For Thunderball, the filmmakers actually went to the Bahamian government and they got them to agree to hold a special Easter version of the Junkanoo celebration.
Even though Junkanoo's not taking place during that time of the year, Thunderball pretty much was the film that launched the whole business of using Junkanoo in scenes.
No matter which direction you turn, you could see some part of the picture being produced.
It's certainly nostalgic to look at those locations, think how many years ago they were filming there.
Thunderball was not the first time the Bahamas was mentioned in a James Bond film.
I spotted a little island in the Bahamas. I'll hang up a sign. No trespassing. And go back to nature.
This was not some random line of dialogue. The screenwriters of Goldfinger used a real woman who lived in the Bahamas as their inspiration for Pussy Galore.
In Goldfinger, Pussy Galore was patterned after Betty Carstairs, and that is really not surprising if one knew Betty Carstairs and what she had done in her life.
Betty Carstairs is a legend in the Bahamas. She had an island in the Berry Islands, her own private island, and she was one of the first women boat racers I know of.
This is Nuke 2, which we have constructed for the Detroit News Trophy in July. And this looks as if it might be fast, but we can't tell till we get it in the water.
She lived on an island by herself, and I think she thought she was a pirate because she had this fabulous full-rigged schooner.
I met her on a couple of occasions on a sailboat that she owned called the Windsong. She was quite a character and had a number of ladies on her crew.
She was a lesbian, and I actually didn't realize she was a lesbian. She was quite military.
And of course, tourists love to know where this sequence or that sequence was shot in the Bahamas.
We went out there on You Only Live Twice. This is where Bond has been buried at sea. We sent a model submarine out there, a model of a nuclear submarine out. And we'd sent part of conning tower and a hatch.
When we took the dead body into the submarine, I did that with Willie Myers.
Well, there were some problems with it and they didn't particularly like it.
And of course it would either go shooting to the floor, you know, too heavy, or it would float up.
So I was dispatched out there to redo it.
And I think after 2 weeks we actually got the fake submarine lid open and the body popped in.
The sharks you see in Live and Let Die were actually shot by Jordan Klein in the Bahamas, in Bimini actually. Even License to Kill, which never shot in the Bahamas, has sequences that are set in the Bahamas. There's a sequence set in Bimini. There's also a sequence set on the Caysale Bank, which is an area of Bahamian waters where a drug smuggling operation is portrayed in the movie.
When a Bond film comes to the Bahamas, everybody wants to see it. And this particular Bond film, Casino Royale, everybody was just on pins and needles waiting for it to happen.
Ow. So you can keep an eye on me?
Yes.
This is Albany House. Albany House is situated on the southwest end of Nassau or New Providence. Well, some of the most memorable parts of the filming here were when Solange came up on the white horse and got off in front of the house, and then Daniel Craig erupted out of the water in his bathing suit, and it caused quite a stir.
Even a simple shot of an actor walking out the water is very complicated. We had several boats out just keeping the paparazzi away. We had people in the woods keeping them away. It becomes very complicated.
And of course, subsequently, we also filmed the sequence where James Bond and Vesper were on the beach, and it was actually supposed to be in the Aegean Sea. It was also in the Bahamas.
Albany House, it was up for sale when we were there, and we had got permission to go in and see it. And it was spectacular. It's a great place, and it's huge. We didn't have to do anything to it.
Well, the producers are very clever. The Bahamas can double for a lot of places that require the seascape and water-based activity.
Joan, who was our location lady, she suggested when on one of our trips that were coming up that we should go and look at the restaurant Buena Vista.
We were very happy to have had our historical home, the Buena Vista, part of the movie. It represented the embassy in Madagascar. The movie was really perhaps the highlight of 31 years of our operation.
Everything that embodies James Bond in the films you find in the Bahamas. James Bond in the Bahamas are a natural match.
People have certain images about tropical islands, and so it adds to the mystique and the romance that is associated with Bond films. I think that the Bond films have been great for the Bahamas. Obviously, what you saw in Casino Royale was fantastic.
After Thunderball was released, it really put the Bahamas on the map. I think millions of people have come here because of that.
Well, the Bond franchise has been tremendous for the Bahamas. When you look at what has happened with the identity in the Bahamas and James Bond films being linked, it's put the Bahamas on the worldwide stage.
James Bond and the Bahamas have become synonymous, and not just because of the movies, I think because of what the Bahamas has to offer. Water, beautiful weather, and the fish and the coral and all that.
Great combination of all these things happening on this small little island.
What Bond is to spies, the Bahamas is to locations. It's not just another destination, in the same way as Bond is not just another spy.
There's been a love affair with James Bond in the Bahamas for many years.
We could do Madagascar, the opening sequence in the Bahamas. We could do the Bahamas for the Bahamas.
It was the right place.